Okay, and now we've got Dave Rendall with us. Hi, Dave. Thank you very much for making the time to talk with us.
Excited to be here.
Fantastic talk out there. Really, everybody was not just entertained, but also inspired in different ways. And before we actually go into that, I want to know what made you a speaker?
What made me a speaker? I started speaking and for small events and for things related to the job I had, and people seemed to like it, and I really liked it, and I realized I had a skill at something, I had an ability at something, but I'd been busy trying to hide it, trying to not do it, trying to not talk so much, trying to not dominate conversations, trying to not be up front. My teachers would always criticize me for wanting to be the center of attention. So I was deliberately trying to suppress those things about myself, so it was sort of just as much a surprise to me as it was to other people when it seemed like I had sort of a natural ability at communicating, speaking, making people laugh, getting people's attention. So it was on a real small scale, kind of in volunteer and local community things. And then I started teaching and sometimes my teaching would lead to referrals, and those referrals would lead to other referrals. And it's really something that sort of happened on its own as other people share the message and sort of gave me more and more confidence to try to share it.
And I understand that you're doing this now full time. That's how you earn your money, right? So one of the things is that many people kind of sometimes struggle with finding their strengths or understanding their strengths. And you spoke about a way that people could actually identify them.
So if our weaknesses all have a corresponding strength, then the easiest way to find those strengths is to just make a list of our weaknesses, the things that frustrate us about ourselves, the things that frustrate other people about us, the things that our partner complains the most about us, the things that our employer complains the most about us, and then ask what's the other side. So to make that easier, I designed an assessment in my book where you pick your top 5 strengths from a list, you pick your top 5 weaknesses from a list, and then on the last page it shows you how they're connected. So for example, your weakness is stubborn, the strength is persistent, and on the last page you see, oh, those are connected. You're creative, but you're messy. On the last page you see those are connected. You're detail-oriented, but people criticize you for being perfectionistic. You see that those two are connected. You sort of are all over the place and you're distracted, but that's because you're curious and you love to explore. And so it shows sort of that upside for everyone, and it's really easy because it's easy to identify our weaknesses. It's harder to find our strengths. And so that's why I created the assessment to help people do that.
And I guess also for us leaders, where we're working with a lot of people and we've got several people working for us, it's very relevant, right, to be able to understand these kind of things. Do you have any tips on how could leaders, kind of pay more attention to that? How could they do this?
Right. So part of it is to pay more attention, to be looking for it. If you're as a leader looking for people's weaknesses, you're going to find them. If you're looking for their strengths, you're going to find them. And if you're looking for the connection, you're going to find that as well. And I think we really need to do that. And our job as leaders is to make our people as productive as they possibly can be. And they're going to be productive when they're doing things they love and that they're good at. They're going to be unproductive when they're doing things they don't like and they're not very good at. Too often, though, we think the way to make our employees better is by correcting those weaknesses, by making them more well-balanced and more well-rounded, which just makes them more like everyone else and takes away that unique ability that they have. And so what I think leaders need to do is use the assessment. Sometimes a great way to do it is to do it as a team where you're doing it and learning together. Leaders talking about their strengths and weaknesses. People are discovering their strengths and weaknesses at the same time and the connection between the two. I was just talking to somebody else as well. One thing you can do real simply is have your team list the top 3 things they like doing that are part of their job right now, the top 3 things they don't like doing, and put them on cards and just put them out on the table and say, who does like this thing that this other person doesn't like? And there's always somebody who enjoys something you really dislike, who loves writing reports and you're bored by reports, or you love doing sales calls and they hate having to deal with people. And so when we can have that real teamwork and really partner, that's what great leaders do, is they help make people more productive by helping people work together better, by identifying people's strengths and weaknesses, and then giving them opportunities to use those strengths and to avoid those weaknesses.
All right, fantastic. Now I see that also we as parents sometimes end up kind of conditioning our kids to focus on the weaknesses, right? And you had some thoughts along how could we actually change that?
Yeah. So I wrote the book the first time as a career book. And then when I went to the Growth Summit 2 years ago was when I released the new updated version of the Freak Factor book. And because that was the most common thing that people would talk to me about, hey, I've got this kid with ADHD, I've got this kid with dyslexia, I've got this kid who's having trouble at school. So I wrote a kid's book, The Freak Factor for Kids, to try to help with that. But in the new book, I also added a chapter on parenting and actually made an assessment you can use with your kids, or that you can do with your partner about, or by yourself about your kids, right? You can look and see, and it's easy, again, we all know what frustrates us about our children. And so all we have to do is just even go to the last page and where the weaknesses and strengths are together and say, my kid is terrible in that way and terrible in that way, and they make me furious when they do that. And then right next to it, there's that upside, right? There's that upside. And then that can totally transform our thinking, like I talked about my daughter who's dishonest but has imagination. If we can start building on that upside, giving them more opportunities to explore that upside, the strength, asking where are they happy, where do they do a good job. Hyperactive kids never get in trouble for athletics. They never get in trouble in gym class. They don't get in trouble at recess at school. How do we give them more of those activities that really draw the best out of them and take the spotlight off of what's worst about them? So that same process of, for leaders and parents, awareness, then acceptance, this isn't going to change, I'm not going to change it, and it doesn't need to change. Appreciation, what's the upside? And then amplification, how do I give them more opportunities to be themselves? Alignment, what are those situations that make them look really, really good and they're really, really happy? How can I get them? And then avoidance, how can I get them out of the situations that make them look really, really bad? And then affiliation, especially as they get older, how can I teach them? Here's the problem. In business, if I partner with someone who's strong where I'm weak, that's called collaboration. In school, it's called cheating. And so kids go through a really long time learning if you don't have it and you need it, you have to get it. But as an adult, if you don't have it and you need it, you can partner with somebody else who has it. You don't have to develop it yourself. And so that's something that people really need to learn and we can teach as parents.
It kind of reminds me the story of Michael Phelps and how his mom actually, really diverted his ADHD to swimming. So fantastic.
I actually use that example in the book, and I usually use it in my presentations. It's another one of the alignment examples. So you're right on.
All right, fantastic. Dave, if people want to know more, where can they go? How can they get more information on this?
So my website is drendall.com, drendall.com. There's a TEDx talk of the Freak Factor on there. There's a full keynote from the Fortune Growth Summit in 2015 on there that people can watch and share. The book is called The Freak Factor. It's on Amazon, even in Europe, all over the world. The kids' book is called The Freak Factor for Kids, and it's also a YouTube video where I took the book because I wanted as many people could get that message as possible, and especially at a young age, so you can just show the video to your kid or show it in a classroom or something like that.
Super. Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you for your time.